5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland podcast. This is where you get the greatest interviews and insights from overland travelers around the globe, learning from their stories and experiences as we interview overlanders from places like Australia, Africa, the Americas, Pakistan, and today, Nashville, Tennessee. You will learn the basics to the advanced in overlanding, so buckle up and get ready for a new adventure. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. This is part 2 with Team Hunt, as we learn more about Team Hunt, their gear setup, and an inspiring message from Ellen and Mike.
Super excited to get back into part 2. Are you ready, Lisa?
I am.
All right, well, let's get those engines fired up and hit into part 2. Tell us about what your process is for planning each trip during the summer, along with any detail you can provide on what you do either daily or weekly for planning.
Sure. It's a longer process than I thought it would be for this as example for this last trip to Canada, and even to the earlier question about just on the what a risk that we have, and our biggest outlier and our biggest limiter is Hunt's health. So we look at the trip through that lens. So we certainly want to be off the grid. We want to do what we can to adventure into far off places, but we also want to make sure we understand where the closest health facility is in case we do have some sort of acute moment with him that we need to take care of. But having said that, it starts with what's a doable place? What's an area that we want to visit? What kind of impact do we want to make on the trip? Is it family oriented? Is it just mission oriented? Is it a combination of both? And then, what would it take to get there? And we've got pretty big ambitions for next year's trip that we're working on right now. So it'll be, we probably weren't back 3 or 4 weeks when we started talking about this next big adventure that we want to do next year. Local versus regional versus national versus international. There's a lot of different dynamics that kind of go into the planning. But we're out to Brenton at 4x4 Far Adventures because he was just super helpful for us kind of navigating what's possible and in helping kind of fine tune some of the trip project plans. But we also, once we figure out kind of the timing, the dates, we'll then look at what are, state or national park areas that we can camp and possibly make reservations around. And that kind of helps us plot the trip line of where we're going to evolve and through what areas. And we do as much as we can kind of off grid, but especially with Hunt, we try to give him some reprieve where it's he does have an area that we can go to that's kind of sanctioned camping that may or may not have a bathroom facility, and just make sure that we're somewhat close to a hospital or other place that can accommodate him. But it takes a while, certainly, but it doesn't have to take a while. We try to encourage people that you can adventure in your backyard. You can literally set up a Walmart tent in your backyard, and your kids can experience something that they wouldn't if they were sitting inside their house looking at some sort of device. And you can make it complex,
yeah, true,
but you can make it very easy. And I think the first step is realizing that you can make it easy, and we encourage people to do that as much as possible.
Great advice. I love it.
We do have, cell phones and an inReach and paper maps and all of it. And the first year, we learned a lot about when we would be connected and when we wouldn't. We got to a couple of campsites or areas that we were completely off the grid. Roaming wasn't an option. And so for this past year in Canada, we had a whole notebook that we printed out all of our reservations and had it tabbed. So we knew we were going to be each day, because just in case your phone isn't working or you can't get to your confirmation numbers, we have a whole notebook of our trip plan.
Part of that too is, 5 weeks is a big chunk of life time, and Ellen and I were both occasionally working during the trip, so we had to find kind of toll gates along the way that we knew we would get Wi-Fi, we knew we'd get access, so we could kind of toggle back to life a little bit if need be. To Ellen's point, especially up in Canada and British Columbia, there's their back roads. I think it's Backroads books. They are OHV off-road trail maps, and BC especially has a lot of. I can't remember what they called it, but it was campsites that were pretty. They were unsupported, so it would be kind of a fire pit and maybe a picnic table, maybe not. Grid-ish, but it was kind of sanctioned in these certain areas, and those were always great backstops for us. If we needed to find a spot, we could kind of look on the map and figure out where those BC parks were, and try to plot against that and just look at topo maps. But I would tell you, we would have the Backroads map, we would have iPad and Gaia, and would have kind of hard-coded downloaded Google Maps on top of the iPad. And then also had an inReach that was kind of tracking the trip. And we also used that as a backup for comms if we had any kind of emergency issue or anything like that, which we never did, thankfully. But those three combined helped us kind of navigate through the trip, I would think.
Cool. Let's go through some onboard necessities. How much fuel can you carry, and how far does that take you? And what are you doing to calculate what your fuel needs are going to be?
Well, the first part will look, obviously at the timeline and the trip timeline, where we need to be, when, and then the first California trip, I thought I was doing some awesome planning and did some Excel sheeting and thought I had formulas calculated, but what I didn't calculate is payload and how that adjusted our fuel economy. So once you stack three bodies and everything else needed alongside it, it's very different than what you get out of a daily driver. So we had to kind of recalculate on the fly on that trip, what are the new fuel stops that we need, and then plot those within Gaia. But it's a traditional tank on the JK. I do have the AEV fuel carrier, which I think is a 10 or 11 gallon on the tire. And I've never put more than 3 or 4 gallons in the spare tank. Just given on some of the off-grid nights that we had, we were lucky that we had a fuel stop that was kind of close to the trailhead. So I wasn't too concerned about not having enough. But on broader distant trips, like things in Alaska and the Northwest Territories, which we didn't do, but you've certainly got to kind of plot where you need fuel and why. But it would get us maybe a couple 100 miles, something like that. It was I wish it was more, but it's a heavy Jeep.
Yeah, I bet it is. And how much water do you guys carry with you?
And again, it'll kind of depend on what are the off-grid days that we're going to be. So we'll look and see where we are, when we are. But we also have AUV is a big partner of Team Hunt. We're very thankful for our relationship with them. And so a shout out to them. The engineering and the manufacturing of their lines of products for the Jeep is phenomenal. And one of those being the rear bumper, which has about a 5 gallon bladder in it, which has always been kind of our backstop. But we also we have been carrying a front runner that was about a 10 gallon, I think. It makes, as you can imagine, having that, the tent, and any other cargo on top makes us very top heavy. So I tried to not use that as much this year, but I think at most we would probably have maybe 8 gallons of additional water that we wouldn't have in water bottles and stuff like that kind of on board. But again, it depends on what type of trip you have, where you need to go, water availability. We did bring things like a water purifier and a life straw, but that was more as a backup and not necessarily
in case of emergency.
Right. We were in enough areas where we could either buy or get potable water, whichever way you want to say it. do too much of that.
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised in Canada at how much water was available that was safe for drinking, washing clothes, washing dishes.
Yeah.
And do you guys use solar?
We do have solar. We have an Overland solar, which is that company has been great too. I think we've got a 150 watt panel that's kind of a trifold panel that packs down. It's pretty heavy, but it's very durable, which is nice, and kind of has a kickstand on it, so you can point it where you need to and angle it where you need to, given where the sun is.
Okay. And any more detail on your electrical system that you could give us?
Yeah, we do have a dual battery system with Optimum batteries, and we've got a National Luna. Currently have a National Luna dual battery system. I'm probably going to switch that. It's a good product, but I've got some really good feedback in some of the other systems, so I think we may be switching that out. But other than that, it's, we do have I do have an inverter that I turn on for some of our the demands we have for charging the cameras and the gimbals and some of the other kind of utility stuff that we have to do to gain content. But that's about it.
Okay. And remind me, what refrigerator are you using?
We're using a 50-liter National Luna.
Okay. Any specific recovery gear that you use or would recommend to our listeners?
We've been, lucky that we haven't had to use too much of it. I would tell you a winch and a max track will pretty much get you out of anything. We've seen that on the trail and have heard that from a lot of different people. Obviously, it's good to have recovery straps and stuff like that. We don't do, I'll tell you, if Hunt's in the rig, I'm mindful that, I've got my family with me and we're together and we don't risk too much. I mean, we've certainly gone down some trails that were fun, and as Hunt calls them, jeep crawling. He was screaming and shouting. He was so happy. But awesome. Too much recovery risk. But traditional tree straps, toe straps are always good. And I know there's a lot of different brands out there, but Max Trax has been is a really important piece of gear that we take.
Okay. And what tips do you have for overlanding with a young child, and anything you've learned to maintain your sanity as a parent with a young child on the road?
It's a great question. We talk about this a lot. Car games are essential. We play a lot of I Spy and Alphabet Game. Anything we can do in the car. We've come up with stories. I'll start a story, and then it's Mike's turn to add a sentence, and then Hunt adds a sentence. Just anything you can do to, when you have long stretches, which for me, are 3 hours or more, which we had a couple of long days last summer. Music. Hunt loves to listen to music, and all kids do. So Kids Bop is a popular station in our car. Anything from different movies that he can sing along to. He loves The Greatest Showman, or anything that he can sing along to. Books are important for, I think, everybody, just to be able to disconnect and have a little alone time. One thing that we've done with Hunt that has been really educational for Mike and I as well are the Junior Ranger programs, which are not so much in Canada, but in Washington, in California, in Montana, we did.
In most national, so most federal parks and larger state parks, they have kind of junior ranger programs in the U.S.
Okay.
So it's usually about an hour, and there are other kids there, which is great for the social aspects. And they're very educational, and you get a notebook, and you're learning about anything from leaves to animals in nature, all sorts of things. And then they get a little Junior Ranger patch or a sticker or a pin if they participate in the program. And it gives us a little notebook too to work with Hunt on, so that he is still writing, thinking, doing something educational, but he feels like it's just for fun. So those have been great. We also keep a notebook with a daily schedule for Hunt, so he knows what's happening each day, which I think we all like to have a schedule and to know what's happening next. So we write that in this little notebook for Hunt, and he gets to check off, what we're doing each day, which is helpful. And we also give him chores and tasks. So I think that's really helpful for everybody to know, okay, when we get to the campsite or where we're going to stop for the night, this is your job, this is my job. Everybody likes to have tasks and feel important.
Yeah, the one thing I would add, and this is, we've talked about this too in the families that we've met, is it's good to give kids a break. Luckily for us, Hunt loves to hike. For a child that was told he wouldn't walk, he loves it. Like, he loves hiking, and we embrace that for sure. And Ellen and I have always enjoyed that in our life, and now life together. So we really look at some of our trip timelines of where can we plot on the map the availability of hiking, and even if it's a very, what would look like a mundane trail that's possibly even paved, but gives you some view or some goes to some creek or something, just a little bit of walkability to get him out of the rig, to give a break, is always good. And I think that's good sanity for everybody. And luckily for us, hiking is an important piece of fabric in the quilt of our trips, that we try to incorporate in planning and what we do with him. And it's important for him to get out and get all that the busyness out when he's in the rig so long.
Yeah, get some of that energy out.
Yeah.
And just recognizing that taking a break is okay, because I think Mike and I are definitely type A. We want to do everything. We want to, maximize our day and keep going. And sometimes you just have to take a break. And we stop at almost every welcome center that we come to, which again is a chance to get brochures and find out the area, look at maps, find out, what are some things we really need to do in this area. And Hunt really loves that also, talking to the rangers, talking to the volunteers. And so that's been helpful also.
Yeah, that's good. That's the same advice. We just talked to Ray Highland, and same advice he gave is get out and turn the vehicle off and just immerse yourself in the environment that you're in.
100%.
So your website states that you established Team Hunt to create opportunities for people to swim, bike, and run to honor children who experience challenges growing both mentally and physically. Can you expand on that a little bit more and what our listeners should really pull away from that?
Sure. So, again, when we created Team Hunt, Hunt was not diagnosed with mitochondrial disease. So we knew that he was mentally and physically challenged and delayed. And we wanted to run races for kids who can't, basically. So we started doing triathlons, marathons, half marathons. Mike did an Ironman. And we just really wanted to bring an awareness to the fact that, be thankful for your body. Physically, we can do things that other people can't. And it was a way for us to raise money, raise awareness, and do something, because there was no way that we could fix Hunt. There's no cure for mitochondrial disease at this point, and the only thing that we could do was therapy for him, and in a way, therapy for us was exercise. So we started running races. We developed Team Hunt. We started raising money for High Hopes Pediatric Therapy Clinic in Franklin, Tennessee. Mike did a triathlon race, the Music City Triathlon, and he actually raced with a young man from Franklin who at the time was 30, and raced with him. He has mitochondrial disease. So Mike actually swam with him. He pulled him behind in the swim in a raft. He pushed him in the run in a trailer that also turned into a trailer that he could ride in on the bike. And so that brought a lot of awareness to mitochondrial disease, because most people have never heard of this. Once Hunt was diagnosed with mitochondrial disease and we realized how big Team Hunt was getting, we established our fund through the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. And I do want to point out that none of the money that we raise goes to support our family's travels or Hunt's therapies. This is a completely separate nonprofit. All the money goes to the Community Foundation. So I just want to point out that, again, none of this benefits our family directly. We're awareness and find a cure and support families, but not our own. So I just wanted to point that out. But so as Team Hunt grew and we made a fund, 501c3 through the Community Foundation, realized how much broader our reach could be. So we continue to support High Hopes Pediatric Therapy Clinic. We've given to Make-A-Wish to grant wishes for kids who have rare diseases. We have given to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, to their Child Life program, and just other areas in terms of technology and ways that we can help the Children's Hospital.
We supported families in need, families that are either affected by mitochondrial disease or other kind of rare genetic disorders that that they're having a tough time navigating. And we've really looked at this past year to explore more synergies with other nonprofits of what more can we do to help families that have kids with special needs and or rare disorder diseases that want to adventure. And the mission's kind of grown a little bit. We started doing all these races and things that were kind of active. And as Hunt matured and became older, we wanted to have more experiences that were with him.
Right.
And, running a half Ironman or a half marathon and being gone for 4 hours on a Saturday is not being with him. So overlanding allowed us to do both. We could still adventure and be outside. But Hunt could do that with us and doing something that he's certainly passionate about.
So yeah, Team Hunt has definitely evolved from just a swim, bike, run to honor kids who can't. But it's grown into, supporting all therapy programs and families. And with overlanding, our message is, adventurous therapy, whether you have special needs or not, get out there with your family. And our hope is also to make overlanding, hiking, adventuring accessible for people in general with special needs. We met at Northwest Overland Rally, actually benchmark vehicles, can develop vehicles for adults or children with wheelchairs to be able to still adventure, even if you don't have your own two legs to walk on. And so, our goal is also to meet with people and figure out, are there trails that we can make more accessible for wheelchairs? Are there ways to go canoeing? We also met some people in Canada last summer. I believe it was Power to Be. They will help children adventure and experience these amazing opportunities, even from a wheelchair, or even if the kids can't talk, or, all of these things. These are the things that we want to do with Team Hunt. So we still feel like we're growing and evolving, and but we just want to do good things with Hunt and show him that he can do it, and to help other families do it as well.
That's great. That's so inspiring. Anything that we've missed?
I don't think so. We want to continue to spread the message and weave the mission of what we're doing. So we encourage people to go to the website, or on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and that's probably the most real-time channel to kind of see where we are and what we're doing, and the hashtag for it. And we are doing multiple events. We will be at Expo East in the next couple of weeks. We have certainly have plans to do West, incorporate more kind of meet and greets and meet with some families like we've done in the past, but do more of that next year alongside some of our trip timelines. And we'll be publishing all that, in the near future and part of next year as we start announcing our trips.
And if you're in the Nashville area, we do a Giving Thanks Team Hunt walk run on Thanksgiving morning. So at 8 o'clock on Thanksgiving morning, we do a run walk right outside of our house onto a greenway. And we don't charge for this, but we do collect feeding therapy supplies for the feeding therapy program at High Hopes Pediatric Therapy Clinic. So if you want information, follow us at Team Hunt Adventure, or you can message us through our website, teamhunt.org.
Okay, that's great. Any other ways that our listeners can help support Team Hunt?
We have this poster outside of Hunt's door, and every time we go upstairs, you see it. And this is kind of the message for our family, but it says, "Adventure awaits. Be present, be kind, and do good things." And so I think if people just remember that as they meet people, we feel like meeting new people is really good for everyone, and it opens your mind to new ideas and opportunities. And to just be kind to people. You never know what's going on inside of somebody. So I think just to be open and kind to people is a message that we want to get out there.
Absolutely.
To kind of add to that, there's a lot that we've learned related to kids with disabilities, adults with disabilities, soldiers with PTSD. I mean, the stories that we can tell you are amazing. And that the barrier to adventure is a lot lower than people think, and that it's accessible. And the more that people can just try, to try to be nice, to try to accommodate, to try to get outside, it's accessible and it's possible. And we want, especially with kids and children's health, we want to make sure that kids know that they can do that. And we want to help support that. And those that support us are supporting that mission.
That's great. Let's wrap it up with a couple fun facts about you. What's your favorite drink in the morning to get you going?
Coffee.
Amen.
Cappy from 410 Expedition gave us this. It's a kind of blend. I think it's called Devil's Head coffee.
I think so.
If I could drink, I almost chew that coffee. I try to make it so dark, but it's good stuff. It's real good going.
That's great. And what's a favorite beverage at night to wind down after a long day on the road?
Wine.
I'm from Tennessee. You know, Ellen enjoys wine, but I make sure the Jeep can accommodate some sort of bourbon somewhere in the Jeep for those especially those chilly nights. It's nice to have a little bourbon to kick back with.
Yeah. Okay, very good. So how can people learn more about you and what you guys are doing? You mentioned your Instagram. I think you mentioned your website. What are the best ways for people to get in contact with you?
Sure. So teamhunt.org, teamhunt.org is our website, which needs some updating. But you can message us through that and email us directly through that. You can follow us on Instagram at Team Hunt Adventure. And that's where we mostly post. And it goes to our Facebook page as well. But yeah, just contact us. We'd love to meet up with anybody and partner with other families and people and adventure with you. So look us up.
That's great. Any more information you'd like to give or useful resources that our listeners should check out?
I would tell you that what was super helpful for us as a family and was super helpful kind of getting the word out of our mission was some of the forums online, specifically Overland Bound was super helpful. It's amazing some of the virtual friendships you can create, things like that. But also Instagram has been a helpful resource to see, trips and backgrounds on what's possible. But
and even going back to Hunt originally with YouTube, I mean, there are a lot of nights that instead of watching a TV show, their family watches Epic Family Road Trip or Overland Bound or Lifestyle Overland. There's all of these great resources online on these YouTube channels that you can get so much information, not only advice, on where to travel, how to travel, what, but just in general. So we recommend that as well.
Yeah, community's great.
It's been a great community. We have found so many wonderful friends, and Hunt just turned 9 October 15th, and his favorite messages came from all of his, as we call it, Instagram overlanding personalities. Chris
from Venture 4x, I think it's, or a 4x Venture.
And Jillian, Rebecca, and Epic Family, and Cappy with 410, and Brenton with 4x4, and Overland Bound, Michael.
Yeah, everybody's been awesome. So he's got, like I said, I don't think there's an algorithm that's changing their stats. I think it's just Hunt watching all their videos. He loves it. He loves it.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking your time. We are absolutely humbled that you've given us such an amazing look into your world and experiences, especially with Hunt. So give our regards to Hunt and safe travels and adventures to you. We hope that we run into you at maybe another Safeway parking lot sometime.
That would be great.
That'd be great. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Cheers.
So my favorite part is the poster on Hunt's door. Adventure awaits. Be present, be kind, and do good things.
Yeah, Ellen and Mike are absolutely right on point with a message of simply being kind. Be kind to others. You don't know what's going on with them. Don't prejudge. Be kind to others. It's just a golden rule of life, but a really good reminder, especially when you're working with people with special needs. That was super exciting that we're able to have a little chat with Hunt on part 1. So if you missed that, jump back to part 1. Listen to that. It's really good. Hunt's just a normal 9-year-old kid. Super, super great kid. So thank you, Hunt, for taking the time to chat with us. And I've got a little message to play from you at the end of this, so look forward to that in just a bit. But thank you, Mike, Ellen, and Hunt, for taking your time to chat with us. We learned a lot from you. I think it brought a lot of value to our listeners as well. Traveling with kids with special needs, traveling with children in general, and even running across other people out there as we're overlanding and coming across people with special needs, and really taking that message of just simply being kind.
Well, and I think another part, as I was listening to when Ellen was talking, was as a family, they just seem so close with being outside a lot. Like,
yeah,
it takes me back to when I was growing up. We were always traveling. We were always gone during the summer, away from the TV, and you connected better as a family.
So a lot of good value. I hope that you gained as much valuable information from this episode as we did. A lot of really good resources mentioned as well. At the very end there, they listed off a few YouTube channels that they watch that Hunt enjoys, and we would absolutely agree. We watch them as well. If you're a listener and you're new to overlanding and you don't quite get what the whole thing is about, watching Overland Bound, Lifestyle Overland,
Epic Family Road Trip
are really good YouTube channels to watch. They're very well done. You'll learn a lot and get inspired to go out on your own adventure.
Adventure awaits. Be kind, be present, and do great things.
And it's a good idea to visit the show notes page on our website at ghteoverland.com/podcasts. Select the Team Hunt episode. All the details and helpful links are already there for you.
Send your questions, suggestions, and feedback to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an Amazon Echo, be sure to tell Alexa, play the GHT Overland podcast. We'd love it if you'd connect with us on social media at GHT Overland. On Instagram, GHT Overland Podcast. Be sure to share this episode with your friends who enjoy travel off the beaten path. Overland travel is all about meeting new friends, seeing the most amazing places on Earth, and of course, new food and new drinks.
Do you have a favorite drink or food recipe for overlanding? We'd love to feature it and you. Send them to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. Before you race off, it would mean the world to us if you rate and review the podcast. Give GHT Overland a little podcast love over on iTunes so we can reach as many overlanders as possible. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday for a brand new episode of the GHT Overland Podcast.
Go Team Hunt!